10, 9.
Welcome to another segment of Video Ventures, brought to you by the Western DuPage Special Recreation Association. WDSRA provides recreational opportunities for people with disabilities of all ages. The Video Ventures class is just one of those programs that WDSRA offers. The Video Ventures class is actually producing the show right now, behind camera on the switchboard, and one of the participants as well, Eugene, is here with me today hosting the show. So today, we are pleased to welcome Megan Wells, storyteller and artistic director of the annual Ray Bradbury Storytelling Festival, a tribute to the legacy of Ray Bradbury at Waukegan's historic Genesee Theater. This year's theme is October Country, to describe Bradbury's favorite time of the year, and is also the title of one of Bradbury's short story compilations. So thank you, Megan, for joining us.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Great. So before we hear all about October Country, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a storyteller. I've been telling stories for the last 20 years.
Great.
And so far, nobody's, I always say to people, I'm waiting for the police to knock on my door and say, get a real job. So I go to libraries and churches and schools and tell
Wonderful.
stories. So,
how does one become a storyteller?
well, it's sort of a calling, really. It's more like you can't help but. I went to a storytelling festival in Jonesboro, Tennessee, 21 years ago. 10,000 people coming through, listening to stories from all over the world, all kinds of cultures, personal stories, folk tales, myths, literary stories, which is what this genre is. Ray Bradbury, that's what's called the literary storytelling form. So it's a little like the radio, listening to Ray's imagination.
That's great.
Yeah.
What is your favorite form of storytelling?
I would say the literary is my favorite form, because the words are so rich. And sometimes a book seems a little intimidating to people. And people pick up a book when somebody hands it to them and says, oh my God, you have to read this. The chapter 6 is amazing. And then it's almost as if you've been invited and story told into the book. So that's what literary telling is. That's what we do with Ray Bradbury's book. We just say, oh my gosh, you have to read chapter 6 in Dandelion Wine. It goes like this. Once, and then you just start telling the chapter from the book.
Great.
And then the next thing you know, people are seeing pictures in their own heads. It's like the world goes away, like what happened with old time radio.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I can't wait. Later on, we're going to hear her tell a story, and I'm already can't wait for it.
All right, good. We'll do a little segment.
Do you feel like when you're talking to people that you're animated too? Like, does that just come along with being a storyteller?
Yeah, I think it's my nature. I just was always sort of, I started
fun.
out in
I like
theater,
it.
and I didn't know what storytelling was. I had never experienced storytelling, which is actually kind of sad, really. My whole life, until I was in my adult life and discovered the art form.
Right.
So it's re-emerging. It's really in a Renaissance period now in America and internationally as well. So maybe 30, 35 years ago, there was a man, Ray Hicks, an old mountain guy up there in the Blue Mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountains, and he knew all the Ray jacktails. And he came down from the mountains and he started telling jacktails there in Tennessee. And people were like, what's this? This is storytelling. So now there's the Moth in New York City. Now there's storytelling all over downtown Chicago. It's really neat. It's very exciting.
It's great.
And it's great for people's imagination.
Very interesting.
I like it.
So I understand that this is the 7th annual Storytelling Festival.
Yes, it is.
That the library is hosting. Have you been involved with
Every
all
year.
7 of these?
Every year. Yeah.
So with the focus being on Ray Bradbury, can you
Yes.
give us a little background of who he is in case
Ray
those
Bradbury.
are not
Ray Bradbury was
sure?
born in Waukegan, Illinois, August 22nd in 1920.
So very fitting that this is the
Very
Waukegan
fitting.
Public Library hosting this.
Yes.
Okay.
And he grew up with radio and the oral tradition and imagination. And he went to the library. He lived in the library. So he lived among the books. And that developed his great imagination. And so at 14 years old, he moved from Waukegan, Illinois to LA, and he began writing. And then slowly over time, he became the most prolific writer in Illinois. Just would sit down every single day. He says, if writers write, if you want to make stories, write every day. And he'd get up and he'd hit his typewriter and he'd produce a story every day, a short story.
That's great.
So he's got a file cabinet of unpublished works as well as all of his published works. Just prolific. Yeah.
So when you came on board 7 years ago
Yes.
to be the storyteller,
Yes.
all about Ray Bradbury,
Yes.
were you familiar with him prior to coming on board?
That's why I came on board.
Okay.
He was the first author I ever personally loved. So I remember reading his book Dandelion Wine and just being utterly riveted by it. And I was asked to tell stories at the Illinois Storytelling Festival, and the artistic director said, "What's your favorite story?" And I said, "The ravine chapter from Ray Bradbury's Dandelion Wine." And that's, I'm going to tell you a bit of that story
great.
at the end of this segment. So,
Good.
yeah.
So this show is called October Country.
Yes.
Does every year have a theme?
Every year has a theme because it just helps organize the event. So we had Literary Witches last year. So all the tellers told from a different literary author a witch story. So we had some Ray Bradbury. I did The Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz.
Great.
We had Literary Monsters. So we had a teller come in from New York, and he did a segment of Frankenstein. And I'm trying to think of some of the other themes. It's been a number of years now.
So are you involved in the planning process?
Yes.
And the choosing
yes.
of the
As
theme?
the artistic
and-
director, it's my job
Okay.
to bring the storytellers in.
Okay.
So I'm always looking for a storyteller who can hold the language and communicate directly with the audience. So you don't want to just listen to someone recite word for word for word for word. You fall asleep.
Right.
You need somebody who's
Yeah.
actually telling to you, but in the author's words. So it's a particular form.
Okay.
So
all the storytelling is you're memorized. It's memorized work.
It's somewhere past memorization. You know it so well, you give up memorizing and you just tell about it.
Wow. So how much
So,
work does that take?
It takes a
to-
while. It takes a while. Yeah.
Okay.
You really learn it. Because like I said, storytelling is improvisational. So if I have it memorized and I get to a section and Eugene's eyes roll in the back of his head like, I'm gonna sleep now, then I'm not storytelling. I'm
You have to change it around a little bit.
Yeah, so I know, I gotta skip to the tree section for Eugene. And I jump to something that holds his interest, and then we stay engaged. And that's what's so cool about storytelling. So
Yeah.
it's improvisation. The story is never the same.
Great.
Yeah.
So hearing about this show, October Country, and past shows and how wonderful it is, how is this show set apart from other shows? Why is this one so great, and why should people come out to this one?
I think the best tradition of storytelling has always been to tell the stories in the place where they belong. There's some old traditional stories from, say, the Aborigine people about Great Hare's Back and the jumping jackaroo. And you hear the stories, you have no idea what they mean. Then you go for the walk with the Aborigine. And there's the mountain shaped like the jackrabbit's back. And there's the cliff face, that's the jackaroo. And suddenly that story means everything. So this festival takes place in the Genesee Theater, which he refers to as the auditorium in many of his books. He refers to Waukegan as Greentown, Illinois, in his books. So it's in the place. So when you come into that theater, you can feel almost as if Ray Bradbury's there with you. So that's really special
That is great.
about this particular form, I think.
Does he have family members that come out to the show? Is there anyone around?
We haven't yet, but
Okay.
it was his idea and the Waukegan Library's idea. And
Okay.
they have documentary film of Ray. So the Waukegan
That's cool.
folks went to Ray and met with him and said, this is what we want to do, and filmed him. And he's blessed it. He wanted it to happen.
That's great.
And he just really thinks that it's vital for folks to read. So he knows that the Storytelling Festival will help people stay in love with books.
Especially in this generation, I feel like that's going away.
Yeah.
So that is very important.
Yeah.
Does this show happen at the same time every year?
Same time every year, because October was his favorite time of year.
Okay, makes sense.
Ray Bradbury believed that you don't understand the light unless you can touch the dark. So October for him was this country between spring and summer and the dead of winter. So right here in October, we're between the two worlds of being home and safe and being out in the dark with the trees blowing. And so he likes that delicious fear. So always in October, the last Friday in the October.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
For me especially, I've never attended one of these shows, so paint the picture of what I can expect this night, that night.
So you're going to go, and the weather's going to be really kind of Indian summer, and that's going to get you going already.
Okay.
You're going to come in the Genesee Theater. Well, first you're going to see the huge marquee, and you're going to go, this is really cool. And then you're going to go in, and you're going to begin to see the red velvet. And just past the first set of doors is a chandelier, a historical chandelier that's huge. I can't remember how many pounds that thing weighs. So then you come around the doors, and oh, by the way, the ushers are all in costume. So you're already sort of walking inside a book. And some people wear costume, so you might have actually put a costume on to come.
Great.
And so then you go down the long aisleways and the red velvet chairs and the curtains and the gilt walls. It's completely restored, and time starts to disappear already. And then the curtains open, and usually we have some special fog.
Ooh.
I won't tell you more than that.
Yeah.
But we usually have some kind of fog. And then go with the show, and then one storyteller after another comes out and sends your imagination to.
Man, I want you to describe every scenario. This is great. You got it down.
Oh, I just love it. I really love it.
That's great.
And we have had a lot of teenagers coming out. I mean, they really, really love it. And they come in groups. So there's 9 or 10 of them that come, and they sit together, and that's
great.
really awesome.
Yeah. Eugene, what's some questions you had for her?
Tell us a little bit about the emceeing and other storytellers.
Oh, all right. We have Jim May, who has also been every year, and he's the author of a wonderful book about Nippersink Creek, which is very much the style of Ray Bradbury. So they have kind of a kinship for language. And then we have Charlotte Blake Alston, who's an African-American teller who is, if I say the word charismatic, do you know what I mean?
She gets the story into mind, into your mind. With the way she tells it, better than I forgot the word.
She tells it better.
Yeah.
I think that's it. She tells it better. So you can't help look and listen to her. So she's amazing. And then we also have Bill Oberst Jr., and he's a Hollywood actor. And he volunteered. He said when Ray Bradbury passed in June of this year, he called the library and he said, Ray Bradbury changed my life.
Wow.
Reading his works are part of why I became an actor. And so he said, can I come? Can I be a part of his memorial somehow? And so he's going to be with us this year.
Great.
So, and it's going to be all Ray Bradbury stories this year. We're not going to do any other author. We're going to do all Ray Bradbury stories.
Cool.
So you can come at 6, and you can do a haunted tour of the basement for free. And then
what's that all about?
That's fun. That's just to make it more like a party.
Okay.
That makes it more like a party. So you go through the haunted tour in the basement, then you come up. Show starts at 7:30, and about 90 minutes of a show.
Okay.
So
great.
yeah.
And is the show appropriate